Uncle Bobby, what a patriot, what a just cogent thinking, common sense kind of guy. Uncle Bobby, thank you for those calls. By the way, folks, you can do it too. 888-601-0032. You might get on TV, send your voicemail. I get to as many as I can. War Room's coming up next, but here's a little, we're going to play out with God, Grit, and Guns. Take a listen.
If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you.
I don't hate nobody, I just won't kneel. I don't chase headlines, I live what's real. I raise my kids to think and pray, to know the cause before they say, I don't scare easy, I don't scare fast. It's God, grit, and guns, no fear in my chest.
Because of you, Real America's Music just released the brand new single, God, Grit, and Guns, and it's already climbing the charts. Now let's take it a step further. Go download the song right now, and you'll automatically be entered to win a special prize. If God, Grit, and Guns...
This is one of those moments. What is before us today is a test of whether the Senate still understands what it's for, a test of whether Article 1 of the Constitution still means what it says, that Congress possesses the power to write the rules of the road. A test of whether this body still exists to defend the American people, strengthen the republic, and use constitutional authority for the common good. That is why I rise in support of my substitute amendment to the Save America Act. And it comes before us at a fitting hour in our nation's life. America is approaching her 250th birthday. We're taught in schools to think of the American founding as though it were unimaginably far away, sealed off behind glass. But 250 years is smaller than it seems. President John Tyler was born during the first Congress in 1790. He was born in the very infancy of this republic. President Tyler's last living grandson died only last year. That is how near the founding still is, and how recent this great experiment in self-government remains. And if the founding is that near, then our duty is that much clearer. We're not the curators of a dead tradition. We are the stewards of a living republic. Our republic was founded on a daring claim that free people could govern itself. Not that a free people could drift forever. Not that a free people could live off inherited greatness while its leaders refuse every hard question. Not that a free people could dissolve every boundary, mock every limit, and still expect to remain free. No, the American founding rested on a harder truth. Liberty is fragile, and so it requires structure. Man is fallen, and so self-government requires virtue. A republic requires citizens, truth, and the courage to defend both. That's why this bill matters. Some may say this bill will say these titles. Some will say that this bill and all of its titles don't belong together. That five-pronged, three-titled amendment is just a package or a wish list or a collection of unrelated priorities. But that only proves they do not understand what time it is, and they don't understand what our republic is. The five-prong and three titles of this amendment are united by one central question. Will American law still defend the basic conditions of self-government? Title I, Save American Voter, says the franchise belongs to its citizens and voting should be secure. Title II, Save American Sports, says that women's sports exist for women and girls, acknowledging biological reality over a legal fiction imposed by elite ideology. Title III, Save American Children, says that children should be protected from irreversible harm, not handed over to the appetites, fashions, and confusions of the age. Citizenship, reality, responsibility. Those are the basic truths a nation must defend if it intends to remain a nation. Let me begin with Title I. A republic has the right to distinguish citizens from non-citizens. That should not be controversial. That should not even be difficult. The vote is not a global entitlement. The vote is not a participation trophy for anyone who happens to cross our borders. It is one of the central privileges and duties of political membership. If citizenship means anything, it must mean something here first. That is why requiring proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections is foundational. It is a minimum requirement. It is so common sense in a self-governing nation because a people that cannot say who belongs to the polity cannot remain a polity at all. The same is true for voter identification. We're told endlessly that asking a voter to identify himself before casting a ballot is somehow oppressive, somehow unreasonable, somehow outside the bounds of democratic decency. The American people know better. That's why over 80% of American voters support voter ID. Identity verification is ordinary, in every serious sphere of life. We require it for small things, for lesser things, for trivial things. There's nothing wrong with requiring lawful voters to identify themselves before participating in the elections of those who will govern the United States of America. Honest elections require lawful voters, lawful ballots, and lawful verification. And then there's the question of mail voting. For too long, this country has been told to accept a system of mass mail-in voting as though it were the settled inheritance of the American Republic. It is not. In its current form, mass mail-in voting is a modern phenomenon, and in many places, it is a direct holdover from the COVID era. COVID is over. The emergency has passed. The extraordinary accommodations of that period should not become the permanent architecture of American elections. For most of our history, the presumption was simple. If you could vote in person, you voted in person. You appeared before lawful election officials. Your identity could be verified. Your ballot could be secured. The chain of custody could be protected. The people could trust what they were seeing. That is not cruelty. That is not oppression. That is what Republican government looks like. Now, of course, there are those who are unable to vote in person, and they should be helped. Military voters should be helped. Individuals with disabilities should be helped. Those who are sick should be helped. Caregivers with real burdens should be helped. Those with genuine, qualifying hardships should be helped. But accommodation should remain the exception, not the organizing principle of the whole system, because voting is not a consumer transaction. The highest values in election administration should be on legitimacy, public confidence, and trust. Not so long ago, even Democrats shared these values. The Carter-Baker Commission, formed by former Democrat President Jimmy Carter and former Republican Secretary of State James Baker III, made many of the recommendations that my amendment promotes. Voter ID, proof of citizenship, and limiting mail-in balloting. Democrat senators may not support these provisions, but their voters do. 71% of self-identified Democrats support voter ID. A free people should want its elections to be visible, accountable, and resistant to bad actors. That is what Title I is trying to restore. Not the denial of lawful voting, but the integrity of lawful voting. Not confusion, but confidence. Not looseness, but legitimacy. I know this issue because I have experienced these fights myself. When I served as Missouri's Attorney General, I fought in court and defended our state's election integrity laws against a coordinated assault from the left in 2020. The left's dark money-funded elections super lawyers did not merely challenge one rule here or there, they challenged the very idea that we can get serious rules to protect the ballot, deter fraud, preserve order, and sustain public confidence in the vote. They came for the safeguards that made elections credible. They came for the principle that absentee and mail voting must be governed by rules. They came for the simple proposition that the people are entitled not only to cast a ballot, but to trust the system by which ballots are cast, handled, counted, and certified. And Missouri won. We defended the truth that election law is the framework by which free people govern itself. Election law isn't the arcane inconvenience to be brushed aside whenever the left sees a tactical advantage. We defended the proposition that deadlines matter because finality matters. We defended ballot security because legitimacy matters. We defended verification requirements because public trust matters. We defended the authority of the people acting through their laws to insist that elections be honest, orderly, and worthy of confidence, and Missouri won. That fight has taught me something I've never forgotten. The fight over election integrity is about more than mechanics or procedure. Rather, it's about whether we still have the moral confidence to defend the elementary conditions of self-government. Because once every safeguard is treated as suspect, once every verification measure is denounced as oppression, once every effort to secure the ballot is caricatured as hostility to democracy, what is really under attack is the public's faith that elections are fair, lawful, and real. So when I speak today about voter ID, proof of citizenship, and limits on mass mail voting, I do so from experience. I've fought these battles before. I've seen the pressure campaign to dissolve the rules that protect the vote. I've seen how quickly common sense is denounced when it stands in the way of ideological ambition. I've seen when the public officials are willing to stand firm, and when you do that, you can win. That is what Title I and Saving American Voters is all about. It's not extreme, it's not novel. It's the restoration of an old and necessary principle that in a republic, the vote must be lawful, secure, and worthy of confidence of the American people. Now let me turn to Title II. If the law cannot defend women from men acting as women, it cannot defend reality. Women's sports exist because men and women are not the same. That is biological reality. It is moral reality. It's the plain reality on which fair competition depends. And when the law refuses to recognize that reality, the category of women's sports becomes fraudulent. Girls are told to surrender fairness. They're told to surrender privacy. They're told to surrender safety. They're told to surrender recognition. And they're told to do all of this so the ruling class can flatter itself for its own moral sophistication. The state has no right to impose that sacrifice. I have two daughters. They both love sports. But this is more than just about sports. It's about whether the law is still going to reflect reality or whether it will be conscripted into enforcing a falsehood. It is about whether a civilization still possesses enough moral confidence to say, what is the truth? And that's not cruelty. It's about whether we still believe that girls deserve a realm of fair competition that is actually their own. A serious republic does not ask girls to bear the cost of elite confusion. A serious republic tells the truth about the world and builds laws on that truth. That is what Title II does. Now let me turn to Title III. A decent nation protects children. Children are not ideological property. Children are not experimental material. Children are not raw material for the ambitions of activists, for the cowardice of institutions, or for the self-indulgence of adults who've forgotten the law exists first to defend those who need protection. There are lines that a humane society does not cross. Irreversible medical interventions on minors for ideological ends are one of those lines. A child in distress needs guidance, protection, patience, love, stability, truth. A child in distress does not need a civilization so morally exhausted that it answers confusion with scalpels, sterilization, and permanent medicalization. The burden of uncertainty should favor preserving the child, not fundamentally remaking the child. Too often our ruling class have preferred euphemism to honesty here. We're told this is compassion. We're told this is care. We're told that the enlightened position is to ratify distress with irreversible harm. It is not compassion to mutilate what cannot be restored. It is not compassion to medicalize what may pass. It is not compassion to turn children into lifelong patients before they're old enough to understand what is being taken from them permanently. That is not mercy. It is cruelty masked in liberation. A republic worthy of the name protects children from adult passions, from ideological capture, and from the fashionable madness of the age. That is what Title II is trying to do. And that's why these three titles belong together, because this amendment is more than a list of 80-20 issues that the American people are demanding. The Save America Act is the defense of the elementary truths on which Republican life, small r, still depends. America belongs to its citizens. Men and women are real. Children should be protected from permanent harm. If a nation will not defend these truths, it will not defend truth for very long. If a nation will not defend these boundaries, it will not keep any boundary for long. And that brings me to this chamber itself. Americans still love Mr. Smith Goes to Washington for a reason. They love it because they still want to believe something about this institution. They want to believe that the Senate, a uniquely American invention, can be used for the common good. They still want to believe that conviction can defeat cynicism. They want to believe that a man can come here and fight for his country rather than merely manage its decline. Well, here's our chance to prove that hope is not foolish. The Senate is not a museum. It is not a visiting angels retirement village for proceduralism. It is not here merely to confirm nominees, pass omnibuses, and fund the legislative achievements of long dead men while the living nation loses confidence in its own government. The United States Senate is here to legislate in defense of the American people. The Senate is here to draw lines. The Senate is here to make judgments. The Senate is here to govern. So the question for this chamber is really simple. Are we here to govern or merely preside? Are we here to act for the people or simply explain why action is impossible? Are we here to use power rightly or merely to congratulate ourselves for the restraint while the country pays the price? Because the stakes here are plain. We see distrust in elections. We see the collapse of moral clarity. We're seeing girls told to accept injustices as progress. We're seeing children offered up to the altar of extreme ideology. We're seeing a governing class that refuses to draw any line until the line has already been erased. And republics don't usually fall in one dramatic stroke. They weaken when truth is no longer defended. They weaken when citizenship is diluted. They weaken when institutions lose the will to govern. They weaken when elites ask ordinary people to live under conditions they themselves know are disordered. They weaken when men without chests hold positions requiring virtue and enterprise. That is what this debate is really about. It's about whether the country still defends first principles. It's about whether the Senate understands what time it is. It's about whether constitutional power can still be used for the common good. And as America approaches her 250th birthday, that question becomes even more urgent. A republic approaching its quarter millennium should not be content merely to remember greatness. It should show that it still knows how to govern itself. It should show that it still has the strength to defend citizenship. It should show that it still has the courage to defend women. It should show that it still has the decency to defend children. Article 1 is supposed to be the branch of action. This body exists to do more than simply fund legislative achievements of long dead men. The legislative power exists to make judgments, draw lines, and defend our country. The Senate should prove that it still understands that duty. So pass this bill to restore integrity to federal elections. Pass this bill to defend women and girls. Pass this bill to protect kids. Pass this bill to show the American people that we can still act in the defense of the American people. Pass this bill because these are common sense reforms. Pass this bill because Americans are tired of being told that their most basic moral instincts are somehow beyond the pale. Pass this bill because a nation serious about the future doesn't apologize for governing itself. Pass this bill because America at 250 should be more than some commemoration. It should be a renewal. The age of excuses should end. The era of drift should end. The Senate should act, and the Save America Act should pass. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Schmidt from Missouri, fantastic speech. They're going to continue. They did 5 in the first hour. Senator Schmidt was first in the second hour. I'm going to slip Mike Davis in here. I got Cleta Mitchell also on deck. Mike Davis, walk us through, tell the audience, describe what's happening right now.
This is historic, and I want to commend senators like Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri, Senator Mike Lee from Utah, many other good Republican senators, even Mitch McConnell, who joined his colleagues to vote to proceed. They voted to get past that first Senate procedure to begin debates on the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act will ensure that non-citizens are not voting in our elections. It requires proof of citizenship to register to vote. It helps keep our voting rolls clean to make sure that non-citizens are not on our voting rolls. It requires voter ID. These are measures that have support with over 80% of Americans, including a supermajority of Democrats and even a supermajority of minorities. These Democrat senators are pretending that this is somehow sexist and racist to require voter ID, like married women somehow can't get a voter ID because their name has changed, or that Black Americans don't have the wherewithal to get a voter ID like all other Americans. Well, if that's the case, why do a supermajority of Black Americans support voter ID? Why do they support the SAVE Act? It's very clear what the Democrats are doing here. They want to make it easier for illegal immigrants to illegally vote and rig and steal our elections. And the SAVE Act will help prevent that. This is within Congress's power under the Elections Clause of the Constitution. Congress can set the rules for federal elections along with the states. And so this is clearly within Congress's power. There is no excuse not to pass the SAVE Act when it has overwhelming bipartisan support among Americans. There's no excuse for this. And so the Democrats think that they're going to try to stop this with what they call the silent filibuster, meaning you have to have 60 votes in the Senate to end debates and vote on bills. And I call that the lazy filibuster, because if you just threaten a filibuster in the Senate, it usually makes these senators say, okay, we don't have the courage, we don't have the energy to fight this, so we're going to move on to the next bill. This bill, this SAVE Act, can pass without 60 votes in the Senate. It is simply not true that you need 60 votes in the Senate to pass the SAVE Act. You need you just need to wear out the Democrats. You need to make them debate. You need to make them stand up on the floor and follow the strict rules, Rule 19 of the Senate rules. Follow that strictly, where senators can only generally debate 2 times a day in one legislative day on any given topic, and the debates must be germane, remaining they have to be about the SAVE Act and not about anything else. And if you strictly enforce those rules, if you make Senate Democrats stand up and debate and argue against 80% of the American people, including a supermajority of Democrats and even a supermajority of minorities, the Democrats are going to lose steam on this debate. They're not going to win this debate. And so the key is Republicans just need to continue to fight to make sure this passes. This bill has already passed the House, and it simply needs to pass the Senate after we wear out the Senate Democrats, and the president can sign this crucial piece of legislation that makes sure that Democrats cannot continue to import tens of millions of illegal aliens, and so they can rig and steal our elections. This is a red line. This is where Senate Republicans must fight and not give up. And at the Article 3 project, we make it very easy to encourage our senators to stay in this fight. If you go to article3project.org and take action, again, the War Room Posse superpower is lighting up these Senate Republicans and even Senate Democrats, like we did with Ketanji Brown Jackson's confirmation, like we've done with so many others. You take action, and the most important action item right now is to stop illegal aliens from rigging and stealing our elections. Get these Republicans to find and keep their backbones and pass the SAVE Act, get it to President Trump's desk. He's already said he's not going to sign any other legislation until he signs the SAVE Act. And so if these Senate Republicans or the Senate Democrats want appropriations bills signed by the president, they better pass the SAVE Act.
Mike, we started about an hour ago. We had Ted Cruz. We've had Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, Rick Scott of Florida. We had Senator Daines of Montana. We had Senator Marshall of Kansas. That was basically the first hour. The second hour started with Eric Schmidt, which I thought was one of the best speeches we've heard so far. And now we've got this. I believe this is the first Democrat. I may have missed somebody at the beginning. Does this mean the Democrats are just now engaged in this? I mean, what we've done here is called seize the floor. We're on this bill in a very non-traditional way, but we have to continue to drive this until they wear out, correct? I mean, this is not about political nuance right now. This is pure political muscle of who can stand here, because as soon as they fade for any reason, we can bring it to an immediate vote. And we already know Murkowski said she's a no. Tillis didn't even show up for the rule. So we're at 51 votes right now, but that would pass it. Is this just a display in good old-fashioned political hardball?
We need to make sure that Senate Republicans keep their backbones here. This is the most crucial piece of legislation. Remember what Senate Democrats are doing. They are filibustering a bill with 80% plus support among Americans, including a supermajority of Democrats and a supermajority of minorities. If we can't get the SAVE Act passed in the Senate, if Senator John Thune cannot get the SAVE Act passed in the Senate, he may need to find a different line of work. If you can't pass legislation with 80% support, including a supermajority of Democrats and a supermajority of minorities, you're not doing your job. So force these Democrats to get up there and argue like this Patty Murray has just done with from Washington, that married women can't figure out how to change their voter ID so they can vote, like they're too stupid. Maybe they're just pregnant and barefoot in the kitchen and they don't know how to get to the DMV and change their ID like every other woman in America. Or like the Democrats try to argue that Black Americans don't have the wherewithal to get a voter ID like everyone else, even though a supermajority of Black voters support voter ID. These are crazy arguments by these Democrats. Let them make them wear them out and then get this to President Trump's desk with 51 votes, 52 votes, 50 votes. Who cares? We'll bring in the vice president to break the tie, but this SAVE Act must pass.
Mike, before I let you go, and thank you for doing this, I want everybody to go to Article 3. You know, we've been the leader in pushing the Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard and, Pete Hegseth, all of them, their confirmations. Mike, you're a man of the Senate. You worked for Grassley forever, and then you were the lead sled dog on getting these very tough confirmations of Supreme Court justice done in the first term. How big a deal is this institutionally for the United States Senate right now?
Well, it's massive because generally, if you just threaten a filibuster, then the majority caves. They say, we don't have 60 votes. We don't have the time. We don't have the energy. We're not going to do this. And that may work with legislation that is not this monumental. But when you're dealing with the SAVE Act, this is about saving America. Democrats are mass importing foreigners to replace American voters. The replacement theory that the Democrats think is a conspiracy theory is happening. And you're seeing it's happening because Democrats are filibustering a bill that has 80% support among Americans, including a supermajority of Democrats, a supermajority of minorities. Why are they doing this? Because today's Democrat Party is so beholden to illegal aliens. It's so beholden to foreigners and not American citizens. The Democrat Party of today caters to foreigners and not Americans. We see this in New York City. In New York City, Mandami would not have won if we just had American citizens voting. But because we had non-citizens voting, we have this Islamist running New York City. This is going to happen all across America. It's happening all across Europe. We have to pass the SAVE Act. This is existential to the future of America.
Mike Davis, one more time. Article 3, where do people go and where do they go for your social media?
It's article3project.org, article number 3project.org. Follow us on social media, donate, but only what you can afford. But again, the most crucial thing the War Room Posse does is action, action, action. Click on that, take action, and light up both of your home state senators, even if they're Democrats. Take their confidence on the Democrat side and tell them they must stop illegals from illegally stealing American elections. Pass the SAVE Act.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. We'll be reaching back out for you later and tomorrow for this. Okay, we're going to take a break. Maybe the White House, maybe back here. Amy Klobuchar's there. Birch Gold. Take your phone out. Text Bannon at 989898. The ultimate guide for investing in gold and precious metals in the age of Trump. Free, no obligation.
Wayne Allen Root here, host of America's Top 10 Countdown. Each week I count down the 10 most important, controversial, and shocking stories in America from a MAGA perspective. Stories you won't find on any other TV network. But I have breaking news. Watch my show, America's Top 10 Countdown, now at a brand new time. Every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. America's Top 10 Countdown, Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. See you then, MAGA.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
My name is T.J. Ash from Carbonville, Utah. Real America's Voice lets me express my conservative views without censorship or editing.
Lazar Garcianovich here from Japan. Love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
It's Stacy from Texas. I watch Real America's Voice because I need to learn, and I know I can get the truth through RAV. God bless everyone, and always love the children. Amen.
And stand up for the fundamental right to vote. That always used to be bipartisan. And the idea that you're going to make all these people re-register or register with a expensive passport or birth certificate, that they can no longer use their driver's license, that their private voter data is sent to Homeland Security to go through some Elon Musk designed computer system, is not what people want in this country right now. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.
Lindell for the governor of Minnesota. She's still in the Senate. We've had two Democrats back to back, Patty Murray of Washington. That's a beauty. And Amy Klobuchar. So right now they're going to select either be a Republican or Democrat, obviously. They're going to pick. Cleta Mitchell, you're with us before. We may have to go bounce to the White House for the ceremony with the Irish on St. Patrick's Day. So far, Cleta, frame it for us. Where are we and where are we going?
We are, Steve, is that today is an historic day in the U.S. Senate because this is the first time in maybe decades that the Senate is actually going to bring a bill to the floor and start to proceed on a bill when they don't know in advance what the outcome is going to be. And that's called legislating. And it's about damn time that they started doing that, because what has happened over the last couple of decades is that they've created this monstrosity process where they just say, oh, we don't have 60 votes, so we can't do anything. Well, that's ridiculous. There's a lot of law that's been enacted over the course of this 250 years of the nation's history that did not have a 60-vote margin. So I think that this is historic. I'm a pretty good bomb thrower, as the posse knows. And I was throwing some pretty heavy bombs and hand grenades at the Senate Republican leadership, and in particular, John Thune, a week ago. But I will tell you that I think that they responded because of what the posse has done, because of what people have been doing over the last 3 weeks. And between last Tuesday and last Wednesday, the people melted down the U.S. Senate phone lines, email systems, district and state offices. And so they had the grassroots coming for them, and we had President Trump saying, I'm not signing anything until you put this bill on the floor and pass it. And they finally said, Uncle. Now, they don't exactly know what's going to happen step by step, but here's what I think is important for everybody. Keep making those phone calls. It's now time to listen to the Democrats and listen to what they say. And just listening to Amy Klobuchar, it reminds me of something, Steve. I was the national lawyer for the term limits movement, for term limits for members of Congress. And I'll never forget, in 1991, in Washington State, home of Patty Murray, there was a referendum on term limits for members of Congress on the ballot in Washington State. The polling showed that 90% of the people, Republicans, Democrats, et cetera, supported term limits. So do you know what the Democrats did? They changed the subject and said, if there were term limits, you're going to lose your Social Security. I want you to, and that is what they're doing right now when they're talking about the SAVE Act, Save America Act, when they're talking about women won't be able to vote. I'm listening to Amy Klobuchar. She has clearly not read the bill. Nobody has to go re-register.
They're not going to read it. Hang on, Cleta. Hang on for 1 second. Andy Kim of New Jersey's up there now. So this is 3 Democrats in a row. At first, I think they were a little hesitant and kind of rope-a-dope, but now they're fully engaged. I think we're going to have a quite interesting evening. Remember, you got to go nonstop. As soon as you get off, I think, yes, you got to. This is called seizing the floor. Cleta, John Solomon broke today, and Glenn Beck did an amazing couple of minutes on it. I'll try to play that in the 6 o'clock hour. Today we were with everything going on in Georgia, with everything going on in Maricopa County. Just the first 2 of what Solomon's told us is 5 entities. Okay. With a big election fraud issues, Fulton County and Maricopa County, and now huge fights. They're in court fighting us. You know, the mediation in Georgia, breaking news, has ended. DOJ took a tough stance, and now we're going to be back into lawsuits about this, but they don't want us to get the hands on the ballot. Solomon comes out today, and Glenn Beck did a perfect thing on April 2020. The Chinese Communist Party came in and intruded not into ballots, but into voter information at the beginning of the pandemic, knowing that mail-in ballots were going to become a big deal, right? They did it. How can these Democrats sit here and they're using every excuse in the world? You don't have a passport, you don't have this. I mean, if Patty Murray and Amy Klobuchar are the best that they've got to start this thing off, I think the American people are going to get a real education over the couple of days, particularly when Solomon tells us there's more information coming out about the Chinese Communist Party, active involvement, in voter rolls and voter information, Social Security numbers, all of it, ma'am.
It's absolutely true, Steve. I mean, why do you think they have not wanted us to talk about this for 5 years? Why do you think they have gaslighted us for 5 years? Why do you think they have called us names for 5 years? Election deniers, cost people their jobs, cost people their law firm partnerships like me, like people that worked with me in Georgia and all across the country. Why do you think they've done that? Because they thought they were going to silence us. They were going to shut us all up. And now they're saying, why are you trying to look at all these ballots from Fulton County? Why do you want these records from Maricopa County? That's all been litigated. Nothing to see here. No, none of it has been litigated. None of it has been looked at. And if they think that they're going to shut us down by continuing to call us names and say we're just conspiracy theorists, well, you know what? There was a conspiracy. And let me just give you one example in Georgia. In Georgia, the Secretary of State, the Republican, Brad Raffensperger, there's no authority for him to have done what he did. He sent an absentee ballot application to everyone on the voter rolls in Georgia in the spring of 2020 because of the pandemic, because of COVID. There's no authority for him to have done that. And then he said, here, check this box if you want automatic absentee ballot for the general election. That is a specific violation of Georgia state law. But he did that, and there were hundreds of thousands of mail ballots. There was no signature verification. None of that has been litigated because our election contest filed for President Trump was never heard in court. And all the complaints that people have filed with the state election board for the last 5 years in Georgia have either been tossed aside. The Attorney General, Chris Carr, I don't even know if he's breathing, but he has done nothing to investigate. Brad Raffensperger investigated himself and found no problems. And now we have a good state election board. But look, none of these things have been investigated. None of these things have been litigated. And we just have to keep making noise. But these Democrats, here's a question that I have. Ron Wyden made a big speech on the floor of the U.S. Senate in July of 2019, saying he and his congressional colleagues had been briefed by intelligence authorities about intrusion into and plans to interfere with the 2020 election. Ron Wyden gave a floor speech on the Senate saying this is very scary. We need to pay attention to this. He introduced a bill. He had 16 Democrats who co-sponsored it. I went and looked it up a few months ago and said, I like this bill. I want to put it in the Save America Act. Let's put it in there so that we can protect our all the things that we talk about, the Democrats used to worry about. So Amy Klobuchar's right. Voting used to be, and voting support and election integrity, that used to be bipartisan. Not anymore. The Democrats want to get rid of everything. What Senator Smith said was exactly right. They want to get rid of any safeguard whatsoever. Just because the law says you can't rob a bank doesn't mean that banks sit around and don't put bars on the windows and put the money in the vault at night. And that's exactly the situation the Democrats have done to our elections, and we have to undo it. And we have to listen to them, and we need the Republicans to keep this bill on the floor for 2 to 3 weeks in time for the Americans' attention to focus on it's the Democrats. They're the ones that should be scaring everybody by the stupid lies they're telling about the bill.
Well, if to do that, I believe they're going to have to stay up there totally. So we're going to see that. By the way, the number for the Republicans, or number for the Senate, 202-224-3121. And make sure if you're both of your senators and one of them a Democrat, call. Give them the old what for about supporting this bill. Call them and let's use some positive reinforcement to the Republicans. You got to stick with this. We already know Murkowski said she's a no, and Tom Tillis didn't even show up for, I think, the rules vote. So he's signaling to you he's a no. He's told people he's a no.
I'm just glad he didn't show up. But we need to work on him from North Carolina. But he's not running again. Lisa Murkowski has gotten the election laws rewritten in Alaska. That the only way she can win is by manipulating the process. But you know what, people. Ranked choice voting, repealing ranked choice voting, which is what she helped put in that got her reelected last time. It's going to be on the ballot again to repeal it. And man, if we can get rid of ranked choice voting in Alaska, we can get rid of Lisa Murkowski.
if you remember when you keep hearing all these people run around, this is MAGA, that's not MAGA, this is you're MAGA, you're not MAGA. One of the central tenets of MAGA, I can tell you, being here from the very beginning, and particularly in the firestorm of 2020, 2021, 2022, is election integrity. Some of the hardest, toughest people we have who've stood in the breach over the last several years, risking jail, bankruptcy, throwing out of their law firms, throwing out of their companies, having their families disown them, have been the patriots that have stood in there for voter integrity. And right now, folks, you got to understand, we have a massive national debate taking place on the Senate floor on this very issue of stealing elections, and particularly stealing the 2020 election, and how we're going to get around it. We've also got explosive news coming out of now the intelligence agencies. They can't hold back anymore. You heard John Solomon today saying the White House not maybe after President Trump goes to China with Xi. It's not going to wait. We got to get it out there, and it's getting out there now. So, and you've got these lawsuits in Georgia and the situation in Maricopa County. We have the convergence of three major elements. If we're ever going to get voter integrity, if we're ever going to get elections that are fair and uncompromised and not stolen, we have to do it. We have to do it.
We have to do it now.
Cleta, why don't you give us where you're going to go? We'll get you back later, and tomorrow we're going to go to the White House in a moment. What do you tell us where to get you, ma'am?
At Cleta Mitchell, which is on X, and at EI Watchdogs. And that's where you can find, we're going to be posting things. That's the Election Integrity Network.org website, electionintegritynetwork.org website. And then our social media is at EI Watchdogs. So come find us and we'll keep you posted.
We'll get it up there. Thank you. We're going to cut right to the White House, the President of the United States.
In a different sense, we're doing very well, I will say. We're knocking them for a loop. They can't have a nuclear weapon, and they now understand that very strongly. But we have a great country, and we have an unbelievable military. We have the most powerful military in the world, and people see that. And I rebuilt it in my first term, and I didn't know I'd have to use it so much in my second term. But the men and women of our military, I pay them my highest love and compliments. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to welcome everyone to the beautiful White House. There's just no place like it, right? No place like it. And we have a beautiful addition that's going to be added on very soon. You probably hear about. In fact, see that beautiful curtain right there, that gold curtain? That's going to be, it's like a knockout paddle behind that curtain. And you'd be looking into a deep foundation, very, very deep into the ground right there. And then next time you come back, maybe the next 2 times, okay? Maybe not 4 next time, but by the second time, you're going to see one of the most beautiful ballrooms anywhere in the world. You know, they've always wanted a ballroom at the White House. All the presidents for 150 years, they say, or more, and they never had. This is a beautiful room, but this is very small for, you know, when you think about state dinners and the things that we do. So they put out a tent on the lawn, and if it rained, it was a problem. It was a nasty problem. But it's a lot of work going on. I hear the pile drivers going, and to me, I love the sound of those pile drivers. My wife doesn't love it too much in the morning. She said, will they ever stop? I said, yeah, another few months. But it's really something that's going on right over there. It's going to be a beautiful addition to the White House after 150 years. But on this special day, we gather here to celebrate an incredible feat of friendship between Ireland and the wonderful place that we call the United States. We call it America. A lot of good names. But it's a great place, and it's doing really well. We've never done better. We took a little bit of a journey, a little bit of an excursion over the last 2 weeks because we thought we had to do something about very bad people that want to have nuclear weapons. We can't allow that. They would have had it. If we didn't send the B-2 bombers in, they would have had it 7 months ago, a couple of weeks after that, and we can't let that happen. So we did a little excursion, and we're way ahead of schedule, as you probably noticed. And we've had, we knocked out their Navy, their Air Force, their anti-aircraft equipment, their radar, and their leaders. It's been It's been amazing militarily, but it's something that had to be done. Unfortunately, I say, we don't do it with glee. But we've had a great country that's 250. We're celebrating our 250th year and continuing the custom that began with President Truman. We're delighted to host the Taoiseach, who is a great gentleman of Ireland. Along with someone who's much, much more important, his wife, Mary. She's just a lovely woman. So thank you very much. Thank you for being here. It's an honor. While the Taoiseach is far from Emerald Isle, he should feel very much at home here in America because so many things have happened that are Irish. But it's often said that we have 5 times as many Irish in our beautiful country than you have on your wonderful island. I mean, that's a pretty big statement. But they love you, and I think I won't say their first love. Hopefully, it's a close second, but they do love. And St. Patrick's Day, we're here, and it's very, very special. It's always been a special time, even for me. It's been a special time. I feel like I have Irish blood. I'm not too far. I have Scottish blood. Is that good or bad? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. But today's celebration, we're also joined by Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland, Emma Little Pengelly. And I want to just, where's Emma? Thank you very much. It's such an honor. It's such an honor. Thank you. We met at the Capitol, and I said, the relationship is very good. That's good. Much better that way, right? Than the old days, But it was really an honor to meet with you. Thank you very much. And thanks as well to members of my cabinet, including 2 Irish-American secretaries, Sean Duffy and Linda McMahon. Where are they? Hi, Sean. Where's Linda? Well, hi, Linda. They've done an incredible job. Transportation and education. And it's sort of, they merged because Linda's moving everybody back to the States. So you have to use, we're moving our education back to the States where they belong. And you have been unbelievable, both of you. Thank you very well. And another unbelievable person is Attorney General Pam Bondi, my friend. Where are you, Pam? Where are you? Thank you. Thank you, Pam. Secretary of Energy. That's a big one nowadays. Chris Wright. Chris, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. And Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez DeRemer. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Lori. U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer. Jameson, we have a $40 billion deficit with Ireland. $40 billion. We got to do something about. Where's Jameson? Okay, please. I'm looking at the little notes, and I'm looking, Bob. I'm hearing all of the accomplishments of your great leader, but then I saw the deficit is $42 billion. So they're going to have to buy a lot of our energy, I think, okay, to make up with that. And Administrator Kelly Loeffler, who is great, small business, but small business is big business, I'll tell you, when you add it all up. We're also joined with some incredible friends of mine and very, very powerful but very great people. Speaker Mike Johnson, wherever you may be, Mike. And Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, who maybe is going to be moving over to a little bit of a different position soon. Mark Wayne, where are you? Nobody wants to fight. He's a tough cookie, Mark Wayne. He was a professional fighter. He's a brutal human being, but he's great. Now everyone loves him and we respect him. Also, Representatives Steve Scalise, Brian Stile, Andy Biggs, Pat Fallon, Riley Moore, Ronnie Jackson, White House doctor, former White House doctor. I'll never forget, they said, who's the healthiest president? Because he covered Obama, he covered some others. I don't want to say who. And Trump. He said, by far, Trump. There's nobody even close. He said, by far. Took a little heat for that, but that was okay. Where's Ronnie? Where are you, Ronnie? Doc Ronnie. Hi, Ronnie. Whenever I have a problem, I call Doc Ronnie, and he works it out, you know. He's a great guy, and he's done a good job, Mr. Speaker, as a congressman, right? He's been good. And Rich McCormick, and John McGuire, and Beth Van Dyne, all friends of mine, all warriors. And we have a lot of big things coming up. The biggest thing coming up is a Save America Act in the Senate. That's voter ID and proof of citizenship and no mail-in ballots, you know, corrupt mail-in ballots. We're the only country in the world that does it that way, corrupt as hell. And then we added 2 more. I think they're going to be adding a couple of more. One is no men and women sports. That seems like an easy one. I believe that's 99%. And no transgender mutilization of our children. None. That's only polling at 98%, Speaker. So hopefully the Senate is going to be able to get that. You can't ask for 5 better things. I think in terms of, it's not politics. It's really good for it. So good for our nation. I mean, who would not have voter ID? Who would not have proof of citizenship? And the only people who would want not to have that are people that want to cheat. It's very, very simple. We can't let that happen. Some 1,600 years ago, the man who would become the patron saint of Ireland, St. Patrick. Have you ever heard of St. Patrick? Voluntarily returned to Ireland after having escaped enslavement there and then spent 30 years carrying the Christian gospel. The Gaelic tribes. You know the Gaelic tribes? Everybody here knows about that. I don't, but that's okay. Because of, is that Kelly in the audience? Do I see Kelly? Oh, hi, Kelly. We had good time for lunch today. That's the wife of a man who's extremely Italian that I thought he was a wasp. Our Speaker of the House is very, very Italian. And I always thought he was a super wasp, actually. But because of Patrick, Ireland is now known as the land of saints and scholars. For thousands of years, Christians everywhere have honored St. Patrick and the legacy on March 17th. And today we remember his incredible deeds as we celebrate our cherished Irish-American heritage, and it's a great heritage at that. From the very beginning, America has thrived and prospered and prevailed with the help of incredible people. The achievements are amazing, the amazing Irish-American patriots, and many of you are in the room. You know, these are very successful people in the room. I know a lot of them. They have a lot of cash. They've made a lot of money. They got a lot of natural business instinct, unfortunately. It's not easy. Dealing with the Irish is never easy. They are really amazing. The Irish came with William Penn to settle in Pennsylvania. They traveled with Daniel Boone, the great Daniel Boone, to tame Kentucky. And in 1776 was a man from Cork, fighting in the Continental Army, who became the first person ever known as the phrase, the United States. He came up with the phrase, the United States of America. That's a pretty good phrase. And Americans of Irish heritage gave us the steamboat, the modern submarine, the Model T automobile, and many, many other things. They designed the White House, that I didn't know, the Empire State Building, that I didn't know, and the New York City subway system, which is, when it's operated properly, the best in the world. It's actually quite amazing, but people sort of have lost sight of that. They gave us the works who really have great geniuses, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Flannery O'Connor, and the late, great William F. Buckley was a great guy. And they gave us heroes like Apollo 11 astronaut Michael Collins, really fantastic man. I want to thank the Taoiseach for all of the things and all of those Irish friends that he brought to the room with him. A lot of these are your great friends, and accords to increase and coordinate our space and all of the space program. We have so much involvement together. It's, Ireland is sitting in a very good location in terms of the shot. So he has a lot to negotiate with. But the United States will soon return to the moon. We think it's going to be quite soon. And then we'll lead the world to Mars. It's something that I guess a lot of people want. Some people say it's a lot of money, and other people say it's progress, and we should be doing
this
it.
This is the War Room. We're going to turn it over now on main Real America Voice channel to John Solomon, Amanda Head at Just the News. They're going to take it from here. We're going to continue on for the second hour of the War Room on the streaming service, so stick around. We're going to go back. We're going to cut between the White House. We're going to go back to the Senate floor, talk to you what's happening on this epic fight to pass the Save America Act. John Solomon, Amanda Head, next.
Ever to receive 3 Michelin stars. In 2019, I was honored to award Patrick the National Humanities Medal, and he's here today, and he's the proud son of Dublin and Galloway. So where are you here? Well, let's see. Good. Come over here. I want to see what you're looking at.